Okay, I think we're far enough. We're going to start this webinar. So welcome everyone to another Visit North Carolina webinar for the industry. This is our first webinar on Zoom. We've switched over the platforms. We think Zoom is a little easier to negotiate and handles video a little better. So there'll be some new things going on today that you'll see, but it's your typical Visit NC webinar. You may notice I'm wearing a tie. That means I have a meeting with legislators coming up. So I'm going to kick this off and get it started, and then I'm going to drop it over to the two geniuses who got this program going, what we're going to be talking about today. Our focus today is outdoor NC. We're really excited about that. Just a few Zoom tips before we get going. If the videos of our presenters and you're tired of seeing my face is blocking your screen, you can drop down out of full screen mode, and that should put us in a side-by-side mode, and then it doesn't block any of the presentation and probably makes my face smaller, which is always a good thing. The other thing is you can ask questions as we go along in the Q&A tab. Just type them into the Q&A tab rather than the chat. You can use the chat for different type of topics that you want to talk about, but if you have a question that you want to be answered, put it in the Q&A tab. We will either answer that by text or we'll try and answer it at the end of the program. So we're really excited to have everybody here. We're excited to be doing this on Zoom, and we'll get going. So today's panelist, I'm going to talk a little about the state of what we're seeing from our visitor sentiment research that's done weekly, and then we're going to have Heidi Walters and Amy Allison talk about the Outdoor NC program. Those are our rock stars that really came up with it and have shepherded along. And Allison Schultz, our marketing person and consultant, has done a great job of integrating it into our marketing plan, overall plan. So she's going to talk about that as well. So we've got a lot of great information coming up on Outdoor NC, a program we're very excited about. We think it's perfect for now and the future for North Carolina. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little about now, and then we'll get going to the future. So now what we're looking at from our visitor research, it's getting really exciting. What we're seeing, and last week was the first week we'd ever seen this, and now we're seeing it even more so. This is the second time that optimism for the future of the coronavirus outbreak outweighed pessimism. So that orange bar there is people who think the COVID situation is going to get worse before it gets better. The blue line are people who think the situation is going to get better instead of getting worse in the future. The entire year that we've done this, we had never had more people think it was going to get better than get worse until last week. And this week, it's even more pronounced, the difference between the two. So that is one of the first good signs, I think the first domino to fall in getting us to the point where we can start really getting back to inspirational marketing and less focus on safety. Okay, our next slide talks about the perceived travel of safety of travel activities. This is really good too. It's been steadily improving over the last 2 months. We're really excited about it. These levels are at the lowest we've seen since the start of the pandemic. They're not ideally where we would want them to be. People still think there are a lot of travel activities that aren't safe. And so we hope to see that to continue to fall. And we think it will. So it's another good sign that we're getting to where we need to be. Our next slide shows leisure trips. Now this I wanted to put in here just to show a little bit of caution. While we do see that people are ready to travel and there's a pent-up demand for travel, unfortunately people are saying that they will most likely take fewer trips in 2021 than they would typically have done. In 2019, when this was asked, the typical American traveler took about 4.9 trips. This year, they say they estimate they will take 2.8 trips in 2021. That's about a 44% drop. So while we do see pent-up demand and people want to travel, they're going to travel. There are other reasons, vaccines, the economy, other things that are going to keep it dampened down a little bit. So we want to be excited, but we also want to be cautious and make sure we know what we're doing. Okay, next slide shows us the traveler state of mind. And once again, this is another key metric that we look at. It continues to improve. The blue line is people who are ready to travel. The gray bar gray line are people who are not ready to travel. This is a record level that we're at. Still would like it to be a little higher. We still see a fairly decent percentage of people say they're not ready to travel right now. But once again, it's trending in the right direction. And so this allows us to be very optimistic that fairly soon we're going to be able to get back out there with some inspirational marketing. These all kind of add up into a chart we like to look at that says basically whether people are ready to travel, they're marketable, or they're not yet ready to travel. And so you see where we are. We're looking at that group in the yellow bar. We want that yellow bar to get very higher than the pink bar. Every bar there is a week. So if you look back, those are the weeks in the past. So you can see this last week, we took a nice jump of people leaving that not ready to travel spot and jumping into that potentially ready to travel, ready to be marketed to. Once that gets big enough, that's when we're going to start our inspirational marketing. And we think that'll be happening soon. So that's kind of an outlook of where we are with visitor mindset and potential to travel. We monitor that every week. We'll continue to do that and base our programming on the research and what we see from visitors from our state and across the country. But today we're going to talk about outdoor NC. So let's move on to the next slide. Yep, outdoor NC. So really excited about this program. We've got Heidi Walters and Amy Allison and Allison Schultz, great experts that are going to talk about it. I'm going to kick it over to Heidi, who's going to continue with our program. Take it away, Heidi. Okay, you got to unmute though.
It's the story of the COVID. You're on mute. So thanks, Whit. I appreciate that. Yes, I have to say that this program is really near and dear to all of our hearts, and our entire team here at Visit NC is really passionate about it, and we are trying to build out the very best program that we can. And Nick, if you would take us to the next slide. We want to make sure that everybody understands that this is a statewide initiative. This is not just about the mountains, it's not just about the coast. And Visit NC has always promoted soft adventure, natural beauty as part of every campaign that we've ever done. And while that's really wonderful and our partners love it, we also have to be, cognizant of what the residents are saying. So we think that this initiative will help bridge those two sets of folks that are using all of our outdoor spaces. And we have as it says here, 322 miles of ocean shoreline. That doesn't count all of the lakes we have. We have all the mountain activities, hundreds of waterfalls, 41 state parks, 14 National Park Service units, and so many urban parks, county parks, city parks, that we are just a perfect fit for this. And many of you may have read the press release that went out a couple of weeks ago from the state parks. And state parks last year had record visitation at 19.8 million visitors. And that was up 1.2 from the previous year, even though they had been closed for 6 weeks. So there are a lot more people going outside. And so we really want to make sure that we're trying to get ahead of it a little bit. So we are the third state to partner with Leave No Trace. And we are the first state on the East Coast and the first state with an ocean shoreline. So I think we're going to bring a different dimension and help them grow as well. So Nick, now you can go on to the next slide. Thank you. So here's sort of our objectives with this initiative. We just want to protect the outdoor spaces for generations to come. And we want to amplify any of the messaging that you already have for this type of initiative. So we think that we can help to grow the exposure that it gets. And we'll do this, we're going to educate and inspire by following those Leave No Trace principles. And then we will do annual tracking surveys to see if our messaging is working. So many of the things that you're going to hear about next, how the research that we started with is the research that we'll continue to do moving forward. So from here, I'm going to let Amy take over.
All right, thanks, Heidi, and good morning, everybody. All right, we'll go on to the next slide. So we really just wanted to kind of talk about how we've been building this program out over the past year. We started talking about this, I guess it was late April, early May of last year. And honestly, at the time, we had no clue how the pandemic was going to affect the increased numbers in the outdoors at the time. You know, at that point, malls were starting to close, things were shutting down a little bit, and we quickly saw that people were going to seek out trails and outdoor adventures to spend time with their families, for their mental health, for their physical health. And as Heidi just mentioned, with those numbers from state parks, our trails have just, they've got the brunt of it. So we started this conversation and quickly decided that we needed to reach out to the experts. So we got in touch with the Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics. Again, they are the experts. They've been doing this for 25 years, and all of the information that they put out is based on research and science, and everything is very cutting edge. They continue to work with partners all over the country to have the best information available as to impacts to our natural landscape due to outdoor recreation. So again, you know, as it says, long-lasting relationships across the state. They're thought leaders in the industry. And so we quickly signed a memorandum of understanding with them. It's a 3-year memorandum of understanding to work with them to, you know, use their data, but to really also use a partnership alliance here in the state to create 7 principles that were really based on the impacts that we are seeing here across the state. So we'll hop to the next slide. So, you know, from there, we've got this memorandum of understanding, and we knew we wanted to start to reach out with partners, you know, from the mountains to the coast here, kind of the usual suspects that Visit NC is working with, but also growing that partnership as well with, you know, our outfitters and guides and camps, gear manufacturers, retailers, you know, the whole outdoor industry, that whole ecosystem. A clean, kind of safe, abundant outdoors is really important to the industry here. And it's the infrastructure of a strong outdoor recreation economy. And so we knew that we could pull all these partners together to work together on this program to provide a consistent science-based message across the state to our visitors and residents, to increase our visitor understanding and desire to care for North Carolina, to work together to reduce the negative impacts on our natural assets from outdoor recreation and the increased visitor numbers, and to increase visitor satisfaction when they're visiting North Carolina. You know, we talk about the impact to the resource and our natural assets here, but also right now with so many new users and new visitors getting into the outdoors, we want to make sure that through this messaging and through these principles, we're also protecting each other's experiences when we're out there too. All right, next slide. So we started, you know, building up this partnership. And so we quickly decided to do a partner survey. We wanted to reach out to our land management agencies and really hear from them. So we wanted to get their perceptions of current recreation trends and patterns in North Carolina, their perceptions of recreation related impacts, the things that they were really seeing on the ground in the areas where they were working, the current techniques that they're using to address these impacts, and then their goals with working with us to develop this statewide Leave No Trace program. And so we conducted that survey in September and asked just a slew of questions in that, and just wanted to kind of share some of the information that we received back. So each of the respondents were given 29 outdoor recreation activities in North Carolina and asked to report which ones they perceived as, you know, the most popular in the state. And, you know, from that information, we heard that hiking, flat water activities, bicycling, camping in developed sites, and mountain biking were the top 5. Respondents were also asked about kind of the pressing issues that were facing the lands and waters in North Carolina. And the responses No, we're still there. The response to that. So some of the pressing issues that these land management agencies and those that are working on the land day in and day out, the issues that they were seeing were overuse, trash and litter, invasive species, and parking related impacts. So our parking areas are just becoming overrun. All right, now we can go on to the next slide. So we got all of that information back from these surveys. And then from there, we decided we wanted to do a little bit deeper dive. And so we did a set of listening sessions. We did 4 listening sessions with coastal folks, Piedmont, mountains, and then organizations that work statewide, just to kind of hear from them a little bit more on how we could work with them with this program. And participants in that session indicated that they had definitely seen this increase in outdoor recreation in the state, and that although it was happening due to COVID, they were already seeing this build up to this increased visitorship, even before that. And it was seen as both a problem and an opportunity with the participants. They see it as, potentially having lasting impact, but they also believed it as an opportunity to increase awareness of the value of the state's outdoor resources and enhance recreationists' desire to take care of them. So from there, we also did a resident sentiment survey. I'll let Heidi tell you about that.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, at Visit NC, we can never have enough research. So we wanted to get the other side of what people thought. What did the residents think? So you may have heard that we did 3 waves of resident sentiment, and Outdoor NC actually had several questions in the first wave. So some of the key findings that we got from that were not only our residents think that our outdoor spaces are really important, but people who are considering relocation really think that this is important. And I think Amy would agree that it works for people who are thinking about bringing their companies here and their workforce here. And many of them thought that North Carolina already did a pretty good job compared to other states with our sustainability efforts. And the top things that came up that most people wanted to protect were the indigenous wildlife that we have in this state, which is amazing. And it would take us a really long time to try to even list half of that wildlife species that we have, and the natural areas, the habitats that these species live in. All those were the most important things that they found. You can go to the next slide, please. This just backs up that information that I just mentioned, where 74% of the people who answered that survey said that protection of indigenous wildlife, and they either agreed or strongly agreed with that. 72% said that protecting those natural areas, and another 72% were the protection of the habitats and species. So, between the extremely important and important, those are really big numbers. So I think it just tells us that this is a good time to launch this type initiative. And we can move on. And then finally, from the resident sentiment, 74% of the residents either agree or strongly agree that protecting our natural spaces is important for our long-term economic and environmental viability. I think that's a really, really important component to why we want to do a program that trains people from an early age, not just people who are adults out there now, but we need to get to people when they're younger and just make this part of their ethics in being outside. And then 68% either agree or strongly agree that community values, unique identity, and the strong sense of place make North Carolina a great place. I think this is important because visitors come to our state and want to have the knowledge of the local. They want to sort of act like they are a local. And we already have that really strong community sense. And I think that will translate into our visitors from there. So we will see. So we're going to move on. Yes, we are on to our benefits. So in putting this together, taking all this research that we had and all of the knowledge from Leave No Trace, where do we go from here? How do we put this together? So we're starting with an alliance that people can join, and you can see it has all kinds of price points, but basically this is not just for DMOs. This is for all partners. Anybody who wants to be a partner in this can be. And basically we're going to help with assets and communication tools to get the messaging in front of everyone using those areas through social media, co-op advertising, downloadable posters, discounts, and use of leave no trace messaging. And we are also really open to hearing what you all need or what you want. So we are, a la carte opportunities are available, and we will help craft and customize those for you. And soon you'll see some of the examples of what will be in the toolkit, and you'll see access to the toolkit is available at every level of partnership on here. And that toolkit's going to include the Outdoor NC logo, the style guide, the COVID-19 poster on how to be in the outdoors in North Carolina during COVID, sample ads, sample social posts, and we're going to continue to grow that toolkit based on what our Alliance members tell us that is important and what they need. And so the next slide will show us sort of one of the other things that we haven't quite finalized yet, but Amy and I are working on that. It's our outdoor pledge that we would like to, we're going to have this on the website for people to take, to sign, and we're going to work a campaign around it with a little sweepstakes to win some prizes, that kind of thing, just to get people to say, yes, I'm going to do this. And then as we move forward, we are also going to have one for businesses who want to make this part of their lifestyle where they work. We can go to the next slide. So the biggest thing we did was the specific principles. So Leave No Trace has principles, and we went in with all that research and said, okay, how can we make these a little more North Carolina specific? And I'm not going to go through them all right now, but I will say that they are plan ahead and prepare, stick to trails and overnight right, trash your trash, leave it as you find it, be careful with fire, keep the wildlife wild, and share our trails. And if you go to our website, which you will see in a little bit, it has specific language for each of these principles as it relates to North Carolina. And we're trying to do this, it's all about the why. It's not about, you know, being the parental hand that says, don't do this. It's about people not understanding, so many new people out in the outdoors, and just not understanding what is the right thing to do. And the way I've always been comparing this is when I went and took golf lessons, they taught me how to swing a golf club. They didn't tell me how to play ready golf. They didn't tell me how to play through. They didn't tell me those kind of ethical things. You know, and I think every sport and every activity has those. And that's all we're trying to do, is explain why. Explain why you should stay on the trail and not cut through. Explain why you should fill your holes in the sand at the coast. Explain, you know, nobody's coming behind you here at this park to pick up your trash. So those are the things that we're going to try to, well, that we have tasked Allison with, to get our messaging across in a very nice, clear way. And so from here, I'm going to turn it over to Allison Schultz.
Great. Thank you so much, Heidi. You know, and I want to congratulate you and Amy Allison for developing this initiative, for creating Outdoor NC. You know, sustainability has been incredibly important to our industry for some time, but I think because of the pandemic, it couldn't be more timely now. And it was a big task for us and for our agency to come up with a creative platform, which I think, Nick, you can go on to the next slide. Yes, thank you. To come up with a creative platform that could speak, passionately to an audience, because we really need to entice consumers, to care and to want to really abide by these principles and learn more about them. And I believe we've successfully done so by a new theme, which you will find on the next slide, which is called Make It Your Nature. Now, Make It Your Nature is not a tagline. It truly embodies everything that Outdoor NC represents. And here is basically what that means. It means that we want all North Carolina's outdoor spaces to be beautiful and pristine for generations to come. But to make that happen, we have to own the impact that we have on the environment around us. So that's why it's up to each of us to learn these 7 principles, as Heidi was talking about, these 7 principles of leave no trace, and make it part of your nature. So then, creatively, how do we make it your nature? How do we show that and make that transformative for consumers? So on the next slide, you're going to see what we have done here. And this is referred to as a double exposure. And I think it's very sophisticated. It's incredibly artistic. It weaves in the landscapes of North Carolina. And you'll see that in different iterations of what it means when you connect really meaningfully with nature. That you can touch in on all the sensories, the sights, the sounds, the smells. But the idea is that once you leave, you leave no trace. And this is a beautiful execution. And you're also going to see it as this campaign and this program develops when we bring in influencers, where we'll be able to transform them as well through this treatment. So on the next slide, I wanted to share a little bit with you about the campaign identity. I know Heidi was speaking a lot about the toolkit that's being developed from all the work that she and Amy have done with the listening sessions and with the research. And so we wanted to make sure that there would be a toolkit very similar to what we have with Count on Me NC that would be available for those partners who are participating in the Outdoor NC initiative. And you can see here that we've got the logo for Outdoor NC, and it really locks up nicely with our NC, brush stroke. You can also see the color palette that we'll be utilizing throughout the course of our creative executions that really represent the colors and landscapes across North Carolina. And then you'll see again that double exposure on the right, where you'll see that woven into everything that we do going forward, because we really believe it's going to be a thumb stopper and get and draw in more consumers and followers across social to really look at what we're doing and trying to achieve here. So on the next slide, I wanted to show you some social executions that we've already launched, with this program. And there are a few things that I wanted to point out on this particular slide. And that is, we always want to make sure that we lead, that we're far forward and showing North Carolina's landscapes, their beautiful imagery, because we know that that's what followers want and what they most engage with. And so once we pull them in, then we're able to talk a bit about this particular initiative. You'll see here that Leave No Trace, the Center for Outdoor Ethics, they're tagged here, as well as we will always identify the locations, because that's really important to followers. And then we can, specifically lead them to each one of the principles. So on the next slide, I wanted to share with you how we can engage and tap into some of that behavior that happens across social. A lot of our social followers, they really like to engage with polls. And so we can ask questions and we can get responses for them to give them newer content, and then really be able to Make It Your Nature to life, where it becomes part of their own identity. So on this one here, where do you want to go to explore the great outdoors? It gives the options of the mountains, the urban trails, and the beaches. As Heidi mentioned, this isn't just a mountain to beaches or mountain to coast initiative. It covers all of our outdoor spaces across North Carolina. And then when that follower continues on with the story, wherever your adventure takes you, the outdoors are really a reflection of you. And that's what we most want to convey, that it really is a part of our nature to connect with. And a lot of our traveler research that has been shared today, and we have shared over the course of this past year as we've been tracking it since COVID, we know that people want to get out and recreate outdoors. We also know that they want to connect really meaningfully with nature, and they want to reconnect with their loved ones. They have cabin fever. So this is a way for us to take advantage of where traveler sentiment is right now. And then of course on that third, you swipe up, because that's a lot what followers like to do, especially within their Instagram stories. And then they can really learn more about how they can protect North Carolina's outdoor spaces. So on the next slide, wanted to share again just another iteration that we have put out there that allows us to dig in a little bit deeper on each one of the 7 principles that Heidi and Amy have shared today. So here we get to ask a basic question. Do you know these 7 principles? Yes or no? You want to learn more? Takes you into principle 1, plan ahead and prepare. Other iterations may take you into the 2nd through the 7th principle, but this is the idea here. And you see the gorgeous landscapes throughout the iteration. When you get to the third slide, it really covers what principle 1 is. And you might think, wow, that's a lot of content. But what we've learned is when you get them this far into the process, they will pause, they'll put the thumb on the image and they'll read it. And then when they go to the final, you can see how they can discover more about Make It Your Nature. And you see again that double exposure and how we take the natural landscape and again, how that becomes part of the person who has just experienced the coast. So on the next slide, I wanted to also share that, we have print executions and we are developing print ads that we can place as they become available. It's going to be a big part of our partner co-op this year. But this particular image you see, you will find in our 2021 travel guide. And it's actually part of our map gatefold, because we didn't feel, we really felt that there was no better place for us to put these 7 principles than right by the map, because we know travel behaviors. People love and travelers love their maps, and they use that for planning. It's one thing you'd never see absent from our book. And so having these 7 principles right alongside fits in really beautifully in terms of travel planning, because we really do want them to plan and prepare regardless of what type of trip and outdoor recreation they're planning to enjoy. So on the next slide, I wanted to share with you Outdoor in Sea and how incredibly important Make It Your Nature is, and how it integrates with visitinsea.com. And the important thing here is that we fully understand that people come to our site for travel inspiration and for travel planning. And so we want to make sure we integrate that in with both an inspire and an educational message. I think, I'm not sure, Nick is all right, awesome. He's taking us live to our website now, so you can see that. And first you come in, there is a hero video, and I'm going to share that video with you at the conclusion of my presentation. But it's gorgeous. It's a hero image and video that really pulls the consumer in when they land on this particular page. And then as you scroll down, as I think Heidi and Amy mentioned, that we would have each of these 7 principles on our site. So we have gorgeous imagery that represents each of the 7. And then, when you click on any one of these, what you will find is information about the principle, but you also find some, travel tips. And, if you want to camp or fish, or look at other opportunities that you can enjoy out in the wild. So we always want to make sure that we can still provide that travel inspiration and education as we go throughout. And also gives us an opportunity to really shine the light on 7, areas across our state. Here you can download the principles. You know, we talked earlier in the presentation about that. So you can download them, you can print them and take them with you if you don't have your travel guide in hand. And then the other thing that I think is really important is Make It Your Nature is really about, you know, it becoming a part of every single one of us. And so we have this user-generated content that's flowing in as well. So we can share how visitors are enjoying our spaces and following those principles as well. So on the next slide, what I really would like to show, and I will probably give Nick a little bit of time here, we will switch over to the video. You know, Heidi was talking about how, you know, we don't want to wag, you know, our fingers, right? There's no finger wagging here. We know from COVID that people are really tired of being told what to do, you know, that they have a lot of fatigue. And it's even why with our Count on Me and See messaging, where we went with the lighthearted jingle to really, you know, to stick with consumers that we most wanted to reach. And then we also did the animation with Sunny and utilizing humor to really teach a message. And we saw how effective that was through some of our resident sentiment survey results. And so we wanted to do the same thing with our hero video. And so we took an approach in using, so it'd be softer and lighter, and using a child's voice and really tapping into an influencer who was very well known to care about sustainability. So I'd like to play that video for you now.
My name is Asher and I love being outside. My dad told me if you love something, you should take care of it. So we practice leave no trace. When we go hiking, we always try to stay on the trails and carry out all of our trash. My mom says it's important to take only pictures and leave only footprints. Because when we all do our part, we can protect the places we love.
And we're really excited about that video. That is a 60-second version. We also have cut downs in 30-second and 15 seconds that we can share across social. You know, you see the copy overlay there. I mean, that's very social, far forward. So if people are watching on their mobile device and they can't turn up the sound, then they can continue to get that message as we go. And, you know, the one thing that I really most want to convey, you know, about Outdoor NC is how it is really changed the lens for which, you know, our marketing team and our agency look at anything that we are creating going forward. This is really a part of us. It's not an initiative that lives outside of our hero brand. So now when we create everything, we look through this specific lens because it's important for us to have that authenticity and credibility as we work with Leave No Trace. So now I think I'm going to turn it back over to Heidi. And I think then we're going to jump into some Q&A. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks. We are so excited about the creative that we have. We really love the double exposures in the video. That family was just terrific to work with. So just so you know, this is just the jumping off point. We're just getting this launched right now. This has a lot of legs and is going to grow and grow over the years. Just a few of the things that we're thinking of doing moving forward are for some of those alliance members, having curated itineraries that feature prominent outdoor figures in your area to sort of tell us where they like to go. Where do you like to hike? Where do you like to have a beer? Where do you like to, you know, get outside? And we're going to then also incorporate handicap accessible features to this as well moving forward. And just continue to make it your nature. I think it has a lot of legs and we really want your input. And then also, we're very excited, Amy Allison Katie Hall with North Carolina State Parks and Andrew Leary with Leave No Trace are going to have a panel at Visit NC 365. So we hope that you will look for that. They're going to talk a little bit about how we can use all this and how we can make it good for our residents, our economy, and our visitors alike. So with that, I will turn it over to Q&A unless anybody else has anything. Right.
Great, thanks, Heidi. We have some questions here. First up, a couple of folks wanted to know, is the investment in the Partner Alliance annual or a lifetime fee?
That would be an annual fee.
Gotcha. And speaking of that Partner Alliance, someone wanted to know, can the videos and links on the site be shared by local partners without being a paying partner in the campaign? Just wanted to understand the logistics.
We would prefer that they be a campaign partner. And again, we are always happy to talk individually to folks who have questions or limitations or whatever and see if we can work out a situation that works for both of us.
Great. And then a topic that I know is near and dear to all of our hearts. During the surveys and data collections, was there a diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI element to it?
Well, I don't know if that happened before the video or after the video, but yes, absolutely. In fact, one of our principles in being considerate in our outdoor spaces is all about, everyone is welcome. Everyone should feel comfortable in all of our outdoor spaces.
And one thing that I can add too, as you saw through the hero video, you saw a diverse family, right? Multicultural and racial representation there. And you're going to see that across, all of our marketing platforms. So not only does North Carolina have really diverse landscapes, as we all know and love, but we have diverse people, and we're going to see that representation. Another thing too, I think we mentioned last month that we are sponsoring a lot of research, and as part of our efforts with Portrait of American Travelers within NGY Global, we have specific questions that will really drill down on how inclusive and welcome North Carolina is perceived. So we'll be looking at that through all of our future marketing executions to see how we can grow that number.
Great. So a question specifically about the purpose of Leave No Trace, saying traveling some across the state, I'm seeing a good bit of trash. Is that true for all parts of our state, fast food, takeout, things like that? How can Leave No Trace help, and how can we help them?
All right, I'll jump in here. So I think that I mentioned that in one of the, through our listening sessions, with the survey and the listening sessions, we heard that over and over from land managers and folks who are working, like I said, boots on the ground, day in and day out, that litter and trash is an issue, and it is across the state. And so one of those specific principles is trash your trash. So really talking to folks about how important it is to take your trash out with you. Leave No Trace encourages, that you maybe carry an extra little plastic bag with you. And if you see other trash and you feel comfortable with picking it up when you're out there on the trail, Leave No Trace encourages you to do that. And then when we talk about those whys, really explaining to people that not only is it unsightly, but it can really be dangerous to wildlife as well. So when we think about our cigarette butts and different food items that we leave out, that can be dangerous and cause harm to wildlife. So we really want to, think about that and really educate our visitors on those issues as well.
Gotcha. An interesting question. We have a local grassroots cleanup group here, and someone wants to get them some funding. Are there state or national level resources that can be utilized to help them scale? And I guess that applies across the board for local Leave No Trace efforts that might tie into our campaign here.
I'm reading the question again. So this doesn't really speak to the funding there that's available to help them scale up, but with this Outdoor NC initiative, we do hope to have a kind of a cleanup component to it, and to really link our partners and link visitors with conservation groups and folks that are out there with the knowledge and know-how to do cleanups and that are doing them on a regular basis, so that we can kind of make those connections for folks who are interested in doing a cleanup but don't know how to do it yet and have never been a part of one. So hopefully through that, we can help those organizations scale up by, adding to their member numbers and the folks that are on the ground with them helping with those cleanups.
Great. And speaking of partnerships, another question. Will you be reaching out and partnering with outdoor recreation and hospitality professionals such as Carolina Association of RV Park and Campground Owners and other outdoor recreation and hospitality groups like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. All industry. We have, such a great diverse outdoor recreation industry here, from, gear manufacturers to outfitters and guides, our campgrounds all across the state. So, really anyone who has that interest in outdoors and is working with visitors, we, see a partnership level and, a way to work with those folks really across the state.
Yeah, we have no parameters of this is only open to these people. This is open to everyone. So if we haven't reached out, it's not because we are overlooking anyone. So please have them reach out to us too.
Excellent. So a question that I know we know the answer to, and we're happy to answer, and that is, if we are a partner, can we use the 7 principles image as possible signage? So Allison, something you might want to take there.
Sorry, Nick, what's the question?
So if we are a partner, can we use the 7 principles images as possible signage?
Oh, well, we'll absolutely look into it. I mean, this program, we are committed, absolutely committed to this program. So we are going to work and collaborate with as many sectors as we possibly can across North Carolina to get this message out there. I mean, we're going to work and follow that path that we followed with Count on Me and See. So absolutely. And, Heidi spoke about the poster. I believe you can even download the poster on our website. We're going to work to get that out to the Alliance and to members who are participating in the program. We'll also have, the toolkit that will be accessible to those partners who are, a part of Outdoor NC. So again, to Heidi's point, we want this to pervade our state and not just be reserved or exclusive for, a few entities. I mean, for us to be truly successful, it needs to be adopted statewide.
And kind of following on to that note, Allison, I swear I didn't write this question. Someone else did. Can Visit NC reach out to DOT and hopefully coordinate an emphasis on high traffic areas and educate them on this campaign?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're already dialoguing with DOT on some other initiatives. And again, just kind of pointing back to what we were able to accomplish with Count on Me and See and working with, the various agencies, it really helped us create a successful effort. So we'll follow those best practices here.
Wonderful. And I'm seeing a few questions. So if we could just clear up again about kind of the interaction, how folks can be a part of the campaign, both as paid partners and just in general. We have a lot of folks asking if you have to be a paid partner to participate in the campaign or not.
Well, some of the reasoning behind the paying is we are using a lot of the intelligence from Leave No Trace, and that typically needs to have something behind it. So we tried to make it just as affordable as possible to get in and get you really good information at a low cost. So there is some reasoning behind that. And so we'd love to have as many members as possible be part of this alliance and help it to grow. If there's anything else that, you want or need, Amy and I are always happy to answer questions, because even though we've done so much research, we know that we haven't uncovered everything.
Absolutely. And then another question, will the NC Wildlife Resources Commission be involved in this program?
Absolutely. And they have been up to this point. They were part of the survey and the listening sessions. And we're really reaching out to all of our land management agencies to work with them to hear kind of what they're doing right now and how we can help them with this messaging too. And, you know, so many of those land management agencies are already using Leave No Trace messaging and working with Leave No Trace. So we just hope to, you know, continue to enhance the work that they're already doing.
Great. And then following up to the Partner Alliance fee chart, will it be emailed on the website? How can partners find that information about the Alliance?
That's a perfect question. It is going to, so as I mentioned, there's going to be two components to this initiative. There's a consumer facing component and then there's the partner facing component. So we are building out on the partner portion of Visit and See, where that will live, where all these opportunities will live. And the toolkit will live and those kinds of things. But if you want to get in on it before that, you just let Amy and I know.
Absolutely. And then one more question kind of about education. We have a couple questions actually. One talking about a database of Leave No Trace educators across the state, if that's a resource that's available. And then also any thought about talking to schools and school boards about promoting outdoor and sea Leave No Trace messaging.
Yeah, I love the thought of an L&T educator database. We don't have that right now. I know that Leave No Trace has that information. We're lucky in North Carolina to have a Leave No Trace master educator provider, Landmark Learning, out in the western part of the state. And I know we have so many other educators here, so I'm going to make a note of putting together that database. I think that's a great idea. And Leave No Trace is really great about having messaging to use with youth, and they have programs and different kind of fun games that you can use to teach youth the Leave No Trace principles. So I think there's a great opportunity there with that question as well about bringing it into the classroom. And I know that some of our partners across the state who work with youth in the classroom are already teaching Leave No Trace in their programs.
But that really has been something that we discussed. And, you know, we had to start grabbing things out of the sky and actually making them happen. So that will come up in the future. Absolutely.
And then one more question that I know is near and dear to your heart, Heidi. Will there be a meetings and gatherings tie into this campaign?
Yes, I mean, we really do. If COVID wasn't happening right now, we would have cleanups around the launch of this and all kinds of things. So we're trying to work through these, and yes, we'll have cleanups, we will have trainings, we will have, you know, if we've already had one partner say, hey, how about we get like 10 counties together and we have like our own little area that does this work. So yeah, we would love that. And I'm ready to get back out on the road here real soon, so.
Great, and then the final question, it's two questions, but really kind of the same. When will this officially launch, and has it officially launched, and can destination partners go ahead and promote?
Well, in terms of the consumer-facing campaign, we are launched. In terms of the Alliance side and partner side, Heidi?
Well, you all are our very soft launch, just to see how it was going to be taken. So what we really hope to do is to have everything ready for you by that first week in March. And that will sort of be our soft launch. And then our really hard launch will happen after the conference when we have that breakout session. So if anybody's interested, please contact us now. Yes, we can get you involved. We can get you queued up, ready to go.
Just in case you need that contact information, here it is on the last slide. That's it for our questions, panelists.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. We really are so passionate about this and we think that you are too. So thank you very much. Hope you have a great day.
Everyone.